More on this, Adam Hancock joins us now live from Singapore. Adam, President Macron is hoping that he can persuade President Xi Jinping to use his influence over Russia to try and secure peace in Ukraine. What are we hearing from the two leaders?
Well, yeah, President Macron, again, on arrival in China, has reiterated his belief that China can play a major role in bringing an end to the conflict in Ukraine. It's an opinion that many leaders in Europe share. They think really that China can tip the balance either way. And remember, President Macron is obviously going to try and persuade President Xi to do more to bring an end to the conflict, to use his influence over Russia to try and bring them to the negotiating table and sort out a peace deal. But on the other hand, President Macron is very keen, like most in Europe, to ensure that China do not provide Russia with weapons to assist them in this conflict, because there is a fear that if China were to do that, it would make things a hell of a lot worse in terms of the war in Ukraine. We understand this meeting between President Xi and President Macron will take place within the next few hours. So far, President Xi has remained fairly neutral on the conflict, although, of course, he was recently over in Moscow where he met with President Putin. He's yet to speak to President Zelensky since these hostilities broke out. And there are concerns in the West that China are favoring Russia despite their official neutral stance.
Right, and China has been somewhat trying to mediate the conflict, as you mentioned, but analysts believe their support for Russia is stronger. And a show of that is, for example, them failing to mention that Russia must retract its soldiers from Ukrainian soil in their peace plan that they offered in recent time. Now, away from the conflict, Adam, what else is on the agenda for President Macron and the EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen?
Well, trade and investment are set to be big themes over the next few days. President Macron, he's not traveled alone to China. He's brought with him a 50-strong delegation of business leaders from some of the biggest companies in France, like Airbus and EDF. And there's an expectation that we're going to see a number of deals done, maybe some new trade links between China and France. And President Macron, of course, is well aware of the importance of China from an economic point of view. All of the major economies in Europe know that they need to really keep trade links open with China. There's also really a chance, officials are saying, to reset relations between China and the EU. Things have been fairly difficult in recent years. You only really have to look at the speech by Ursula von der Leyen last week, just before heading out to China, where she was very scathing about Beijing. She was particularly critical about their role in the war and their support for Russia, and also talked about the risks of doing trade with China as well. And for China, they know that Europe is an important part of the world. They're very keen to continue and open their links with them. Mm-hmm. There is some speculation that they might be keen even to try and split Europe apart in some way and weaken things in terms of the Europe-US relations.
Right, so if they do indeed open those links, Adam, how would that benefit the two sides?
Well, for Europe, it really shows that they can continue a working relationship with such a key trading partner. You know, we've got these huge companies that are going to rely, just look at Germany, for example, the automotive industry in that country relies heavily on China. So if nations in Europe are seeing that deals are being done with China, then that's a positive, obviously, for all the EU countries. As for China, well, it's important for them on the world stage, really, to maintain a dialogue with Europe. We're seeing this new role that China are trying to portray at the moment of being a peacemaker. We saw them putting deals together with Saudi Arabia and Iran. And if there is going to be any peace negotiations in the war in Ukraine, you imagine Europe will be heavily involved, and you imagine, therefore, that China will want to be heavily involved as well. So they know as well that Europe and the US have been very close when it comes to the war in Ukraine. So if they can keep their diplomatic avenues open with Europe, then it will certainly benefit Beijing on the world stage.
All right, Adam Hancock live for us there in Singapore. Thank you for that.